A relatively big package arrived this time, and inside is a CCTV system, that is security camera system, from a company named AOSU. It's a kit, and it's named SolarCam P1 Max System, and this is the most advanced security camera offering from AOSU at the moment I'm making this video. It consists of two P1 Max cameras and a central hub. This is the smallest kit, which only has two cameras, because I don't need more, but you can also get a 4-kit camera, a 6-kit camera, and an 8-kit camera. The cameras look very similar to regular P1 Max cameras from AOSU. I reviewed one of them not long ago. However, there is a significant difference. The bundled cameras do not have an SD card slot, while the original camera does have an SD card slot. And both cameras do not have internal storage. So you need some kind of storage for recordings. You are supposed to use the home base system with these cameras, while the normal P1 Max camera can store the recorded videos on the SD card if you install one. When I started to make this video, the only way to use this central hub was with the bundled cameras. So you need to plan ahead how many cameras you need to buy, since these cameras are not sold separately from the base unit. However, after a few software updates, the home base system now actually does support the regular P1 Max cameras, which you can buy separately. So if you will need some more cameras down the line, you can get the regular P1 Max cameras. Even though the bundled cameras can work on their own, you are supposed to use the central hub to integrate them in a single system. And they have also changed the cameras that are shipped in the kit. And now the kit is bundled with the regular P1 Max cameras that do have an SD card slot. So mine is an early version, but if you purchase them now, it's high chance that you will receive a kit with regular cameras that can be used with SD cards. Other than the lack of storage, the camera itself is very similar to the P1 Max model I already reviewed, so I won't spend too much time on repeating myself. If you're interested, watch that review to get the full detail. However, I will briefly remind you how to install the cameras. So basically, since these are solar-powered cameras with inbuilt rechargeable battery, and they also connect to your Wi-Fi network, you don't need to put any cables at all for these cameras to work. The only thing you need is to mount them on the wall, for example. AOSU provides everything you need to mount them on the wall. That includes screws, dowels, and a sticker for the holes. I will be mounting it on a wooden wall made of plywood. That's why I don't really need the dowels. So what I did, I just drilled 4 pilot holes and then used a regular screwdriver with regular wooden screws to mount the back plate of the camera mount. Then you just screw in the rest of the mount with the camera and you are done. Also, if you don't like the included mount for some reason, the metal part can be screwed out of the camera, revealing a regular screw which you can use to attach any type of camera holder you want. Anyway, the main star of the show is this central unit, which is called HomeBase. Basically, it's a small proprietary computer which is used to run the so-called HomeCortex system, which is an AI-based CCTV system from AOSU. And this allows you to run an AI model locally. So this CCTV system does not depend on any type of outside service to provide you with artificial intelligence options. All of it runs locally on this particular device. It requires its own power through a wall wart. It is also required to be connected to your router with an Ethernet cable. Unfortunately, it does not have Wi-Fi, so you need a wired connection to your Wi-Fi network. And it also has an USB port. As I said, the cameras do not have their own storage. However, the HomeBase unit has 32 GB of space to store the recordings. That's more than enough for 2 cameras, but if you need more, the storage can be expanded. All you need to do is to remove the front panel, which is held in place by magnets, and unscrew a single screw, and then pull out a small piece of plastic. This plastic is a holder for a regular 2.5-inch hard drive or SSD drive. The maximum supported capacity is 16 terabytes. Those have to be SATA. So M2 is not supported. The drives have to be SATA. I'm not sure that 2.5-inch, that is basically laptop size, hard drives exist in the capacity of 16 terabytes, but you can obviously use SATA SSDs of lower capacity. Just for illustration purposes, I'm mounting here a 1 terabyte SSD drive from a budget brand. However, I will not be using it myself, since the inbuilt 32 gigabytes is more than enough for my particular use case. But if you need more storage, you can pop in a SATA drive. The only warning here, if you plan to use a regular hard drive instead of SSD, and regular hard drives are magnetic storage, it may be a good idea to keep it away from the magnets that are used to attach the front panel on the base unit, since magnetic drives may be damaged if they are in close proximity with the magnet. So make sure you don't place the magnet near the hard drive while you are installing it. So, to start using the system, you need to mount the cameras and make sure they are in the range of your home Wi-Fi, and also connect the home base to your router using an Ethernet cable. And the home base is a relatively small unit, by the way. Here it is compared in size to a regular pack of cigarettes. And then you plug it to the wall socket. The unit also has active cooling in the form of a fan, which is constantly running, and even though it is very silent, and you can barely hear it, it is there. Then you need to download AOSU app. This is a proprietary system, and like everything else from AOSU, you manage it through a smartphone app. The app is only available for mobile operating systems, that is Android and iOS, and it's not available for desktop. If you plan to use the app on the desktop, you will need to run it in some sort of Android emulator. And since the system is proprietary, you cannot use any other software to manage it. You have to rely on AOSU app. So you have to either download the latest version of AOSU app, or if you already have it, you must make sure that the app is updated to the latest version. And you also need to register an account. Everything is free besides the cloud storage. So if you need cloud storage at some AOSU servers, you will need to pay for that. That's a subscription service. But if you don't need the cloud storage, and you probably don't since the home base has plenty of storage, everything is free. There is no subscription, there is no credit cards. Also note that on some cameras, Bluetooth is used for the initial connection from the smartphone, and if your smartphone doesn't detect any Wi-Fi networks during the process, you must make sure that location is currently enabled. Since on Android at least, you need to have location enabled for the apps to access Bluetooth. Since I already do have other AOSU cameras in this app, I press on plus and it almost immediately detected the home base, which is connected to the same network my smartphone is connected to. Then I add the home base. It then instructs you how to connect the cameras, which is very simple. You will need to turn on the cameras and the home base will automatically detect them if they are in the range of the same Wi-Fi router the home base is connected to. And in less than a minute, the whole system is set up. And immediately there is a firmware update. This is a very important step. Make sure that you do update the firmware of the home base. After the home base update is complete, and you need to update the firmware of all the cameras as well. I wasn't able to do that from the main screen, it did nothing, so I had to open each camera settings individually and update the firmware from there. After all the devices have up-to-date firmware, you can start using them. The cameras themselves are identical to the P1 Max model I already reviewed. They are truly 4K cameras and they support all the same features, so I will not go into that. The real magic happens in the home base unit. And the reason why it's called Cortex is that it's the brain for AI. Many new AOSU models have some sort of AI, however, some advanced features like facial recognition require cloud subscription and internet connection to AOSU servers to work. This HomeCortex unit is the local solution. The AI works inside the box, locally inside your home. There are 4 main features in this unit. The first one is facial recognition. So this device can detect people and it can also recognize people. If you want it to recognize your own family, you will have to upload the photos and it will try to recognize the faces on the video feed it captures. The second feature is related to the face recognition and it's called cross-camera tracking. That means that if you have multiple cameras connected to the same HomeCortex unit, it can track individuals across those cameras. This will limit the amount of false alarms and will also ensure that the strangers are tracked across all the cameras. Another feature is vehicle registration plate recognition. You can also set up the number plates of all the vehicles in your family, so the camera will not alert you if one of your allowed vehicles parked on your driveway. However, if someone else parks there, it will send you an alert. And the coolest feature so far is True Sight Intelligence. It's currently in beta, but it works surprisingly well. It's actually an amazing feature, and what it does, it takes the feed from the camera or the recordings and it tries to determine what is actually happening in those videos, and it will send you that information in a brief summary in text. It will also separate typical activity from unusual activity, and it will also create a security report for you. That means that you don't need to go through actual recordings to understand what is going on. All you need to do is to read the brief, and if something is out of place, you then can watch the actual recording. And this transcription feature works remarkably well. It can really understand what is going on. It will tell you that a person wearing that clothes is carrying bags of that color, or someone is poking into the parcel, or someone is near your car, or someone is trying to do something with your doorknob, and things like that. And it's very accurate as well. But since a language model is used, the descriptions sometimes feel like a cheap fiction book.
In the hallway, a woman approaches a door with a bag as a man stands nearby holding a backpack and conversing with her.
A man and a woman enter an apartment through an entryway. The woman briefly touches the door handle. And things like that. But other than that, it's very accurate. It tells you where something is happening. If it's a hallway, for example, it will tell you the color of the walls. If it's a person, it will tell you that the person is wearing a backpack, for example. If it's a vehicle, it will tell you if it's a car, a cycle, a motorcycle, whatever, and things like that. It can also detect other living creatures, dogs, for example. And all of that is also sent to you in the form of notifications to the phone. And that actually saves you a lot of time. So you don't need to waste time on looking through the video footage, but you will still be aware what is happening at your home, for example, while you're away. Each camera detection functions can also be set up separately. They do have some AI features, for example this wall climb or fence intrusion detection, where you configure where your fence is, and if anyone climbs over it, you will receive a notification. And you don't need to go through the entire video. Here, AI Smart Search can also help you. For example, this video has sky somewhere in it. And if I type in the search box sky, the video will automatically be forwarded to the place where the sky is shown. And in that way, you can search for any moment you need, for example, a cyclist or whatever. This also saves time. So that's how the system works. And I would also like to tell some bits and pieces that may be important for you. First of all, the cameras. They have infrared night vision. They also have color night vision of sorts. They have inbuilt light, and all of that allows it to capture images even at night. It has an inbuilt battery, which lasts for about 3 weeks, depending on the amount of use. It's very power efficient though, since it is only activated by a motion sensor. So the second lens on the front of the camera is actually a motion sensor, and that is what activates the camera. So most of the time the camera actually sleeps, conserving the power. However, to charge it from sun, it has to receive at least 2 hours of direct sunlight on the top of the camera each day. You can also charge it via USB, and if you want to run it from constant power, you can use the same USB connection and attach it to any source of USB power using a Type-C cable. However, what most people don't understand, that solar panel works in any type of light. It doesn't have to be sunlight. So for example, if you have any well-lit space, a corridor for example, or a staircase, which does have mains power with lights, but you are not allowed or cannot tap into that power for any reason, this will also work. The hallway lights or street lights, for example, are enough to charge the battery in the camera using the solar panel. And one more important bit of information, even though this is a local system, so the cameras connect to the home base unit through your router, and they actually don't require internet to work. However, if your local network doesn't have internet connection, your phone will not be able to view the live stream from the cameras, and since the only way to interact with the cameras, that includes downloading the footage, is through the phone app, you will not be able to do so. You will also not receive notifications, even if your phone is connected to the same Wi-Fi network. So the communication to the home base and the cameras goes through AOSU servers, even if all the devices are on the same network. So you need internet, and the moment the internet is restored, all the footage and all the notifications will be synced to your phone. But it doesn't work without internet. So this is one of the drawbacks. Another drawback is the lack of Wi-Fi in the base unit. I think they could have added that, no problem. And in general, this home base unit seems to be a little bit of a waste of hardware. The hardware in this box is definitely very capable performance-wise, regardless of what platform that is. And I would like to see some unrelated to CCTV features here, like the ability to run Docker containers, for example. In that case, I could extend the use of this box and also use it as a network storage. Remember, it supports 16 terabytes of storage. I could use Home Assistants and smart homes, and by the way, the cameras and the home base support Alexa and Google Home integration. I could run a media or web server or Pi-hole or whatever on this box, since this box is connected to the internet and it's running 24/7. I would like to use it for some more features, but unfortunately it's not possible, at least now. Other than that, it's a very capable device. The AI functions work great, even the description feature works nicely. Sometimes it describes the events incorrectly. For example, there was a delivery guy who brought in groceries on a trolley. However, it was described as a maintenance worker bringing in a ladder on a trolley, but that's a minor difference. Other than that, it works pretty well. So if you are interested in getting this system, you will see a purchase link in the description below.
I am the god of YouTube!
Like, subscribe, jingle bells.